What's going on, everybody? Back again, 2 nights in a row. Um, Last night was awesome and a great success. I think that was a really good episode. Having Reese Baker on and talking about dog hunting and all that had a lot of really good feedback, and we really plan on trying to do that again, probably in another week or so. So y'all look out for that, and also, every episode I try to tell everybody, try and make plans for March 1st for the Augusta Wild Outdoor Expo. It's going to be great. And tonight I got a celebrity, y'all, ready to go. And fixing to get them on here. Y'all ready? What's going on, Mr. Celebrity?
There we go. How you doing, Brent?
I'm good, brother. You doing all right?
Doing good, doing good. Just wrapped up the 7 o'clock news, and man, excited to be on with you tonight. Love talking about fishing, and I saw you were out there fishing today with your little girl.
I was. We had a good time, man. She made me proud, throwing it on her own and reeling it on her own.
Nice.
She said, "Daddy, I want to go home and eat them." So hey, that's what I did.
Hey, those shell crackers, that's good eating right
Yeah,
there.
it was. It really was. It was really good.
Good.
Heck yeah, man. So man, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I think everybody is pretty much excited about hearing from you. And like I said before, I don't think a lot of people probably want to hear about how you got to Augusta and how you got to be a weatherman and all that. We'll dive into all that stuff. And so I guess we'll start out by maybe just telling everybody like a little brief bio on about yourself growing up, or how you got into weather and stuff like that. I think that'd be a good starting point if you want to do that.
For sure. So man, growing up, I lived all over the place. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. Lived there for a couple years. After that, moved to Bremen, Georgia. Lived there for a couple years, and then kind of the most off the wall place I've lived is actually London, England. My mom finished up seminary, and her first church, she got an opportunity to get a church in England, and my dad's family is actually 100% British, like came over here from England in the 60s. And so we actually had some family over there. So it kind of worked out to where I was 7 or 8 years old. We were coming from Bremen, Georgia to London, England.
Wow.
And that was quite the experience growing up. Once we lived there for a couple years, we moved back to the States and lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I lived in Charlotte for about 10 years growing up. So I lived there from about second grade all the way up to 10th grade. And when I lived in Charlotte, that's where I really fell in love with fishing. My dad took us fishing one time at like a local park or something, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And then I was constantly bugging him every single day. Let's go fishing. Let's go fishing. Let's go fishing. We eventually ended up actually moving in Charlotte to a house that had a little 5-acre pond in the back. So then I was able to fish every single day. We had a little John boat with the trolling motor, and it was just a little neighborhood pond that we could go out in. So during the summertime, me and my neighborhood friends, we were out there fishing all the neighborhood ponds, riding our bikes in between them, taking our boat out on the one we had. So that's where my real love for fishing really started.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway through high school, I moved to Savannah, Georgia. Finished out high school there. Ended up going to the University of Georgia for college after that.
Good choice.
And yep, go Dogs. And then graduated there. My first job actually after graduating from Georgia was in the Mississippi Delta. It was in Greenville, Mississippi. So in the television business, usually you got to kind of start at a very low market. So Greenville, Mississippi was market 198 out of 200.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it was a very rural area. In Greenville, you basically drive 2 hours northeast, south, and west. You're in nothing but farm fields. It is way out in the middle of nowhere. But the Delta is actually really known for really phenomenal duck hunting.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and good fishing too. So kind of just kept the passion alive all the way through childhood. Just different spots I ended up in. I would always try to find a local fishing hole to try to go fishing legally. That's the tough part sometimes. You find a good spot on Google Maps and you may not necessarily have access to those spots.
They look good On the map though,
They
yeah.
look real good on the map, 100%. But
Yeah.
man, I'll tell you, when I moved here in Augusta from Greenville in 2017, I really took my fishing to the next level once I moved here.
Hmm.
Being surrounded by just so much phenomenal fisheries, the Savannah River, the Augusta Canal is actually a surprisingly good fishery, or at least it was before they drained it a couple times. Clarks Hill Lake, obviously a great body of water with great fish. And then, so once I moved here in Augusta, I saw the Augusta Canal and I was like, all right, I instantly need to fish there.
Yeah.
Dude, the first fish I pulled out of the Augusta Canal was like a 5-pound largemouth, and I
Okay.
instantly was like, "All right, game on!" And got really big into kayak fishing.
Mhm.
Got real big into kayak fishing, and that just kind of opened up a whole new world to be able to access all different types of bodies of water. Started fishing a lot of local kayak tournaments, and was lucky enough to win a couple of those. I actually qualified for. Uh, the kayak bass series on the national level after winning a Clarks Hill tournament a couple weeks ago or a couple years ago. But dude, I really got big into tournament kayak fishing, and I've loved it ever since. And it really started, I've loved fishing since I was a kid, but the kayak fishing, I really started after I moved here to Augusta
Mhm.
and just really went on from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, it's funny you just brought that up. One of the lady fishermen that was in that bass tournament that I saw you at,
Hmm.
I seen on her page that that's what she does down in Florida is kayak
Yeah.
fishing tournaments and stuff.
And those kayak tournaments are catching on like wildfire. It's getting bigger and bigger year after year. And we actually have a couple local guys that I know that fish on the bigger Bassmaster series,
Yeah,
and they've had a lot of success on those. And there's some decent money to be won on the kayak series trail. It's
that's
definitely
cool.
it's getting more and more popular, and I think the reason is it's just a more affordable option.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're not spending as much money on
A $70,000
or
bass boat.
exactly right. Yeah. Instead of a piece of or a giant piece of fiberglass, you got a giant piece of plastic. So,
Yeah,
but I think the kayak fishing is perfect for around our
yeah,
area because you have access to the entire river, the entire canal. You can still fish a lot of Clarks Hill. It could be tough to get around Clarks Hill more on the kayak, at least getting to a diversity of
yeah.
spots. But still have caught plenty of fish in a
Oh
kayak
yeah,
at Clarks Hill.
for sure. Oh gosh, I can remember bumming it going up to the lake in like a little pond, like a 6 or 8 foot little pond boat, just staying in a cove. I mean, you gotta do what you
Oh
gotta
yeah.
do sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes a year you can just sit in one spot
Yeah.
and they're kind of coming in and out. And I mean, you can even watch. I like to really watch the old Bassmaster classics that would be held
Oh,
at Clarks Hill and
those are so
seeing what
awesome.
they would do. And I mean, there was guys that would sit on one spot all day long,
Hmm.
and you would catch fish all day long. Like it would just be a, a passageway for those fish to just kind of come in and out.
Yeah,
So you definitely don't have to move a ton to catch fish sometimes.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, so as far as like the lake or the river, what around here, what would probably be your favorite out of the two if you have one to fish?
Definitely the river,
Okay.
100%. Man, we are so lucky to just have an incredible fishery in the Savannah River.
Hmm.
Um, and all stretches too. I mean, start from the dam at Clarks
Yes.
Hill, all the way past the Lock and Dam, past Bushfield, all the way to
Hmm.
Savannah. I mean, growing up living in Savannah and still my family still lives in Savannah. My dad is a big inshore fisherman, so he fishes the Savannah River and tears them up down Savannah, and there's fish just all the way throughout it up to here in Augusta.
That's
And
cool.
um, but the Savannah River, specifically around the Savannah River shoals, that's prime time for me. If I had to pick one fishing spot the rest of my
Yeah,
life, it would be that stretch of the Savannah River.
I got you. Do you get lucky on catching smallmouth and stuff? Because I've heard stories where people have caught them and they're starting to like really be more prominent around the area.
Oh
Is that
yeah.
true?
Yes, on the Savannah Rapids, the Savannah Shoals area, from around, say, the Stevens Creek Dam all the way to North Augusta, that stretch of the river has a world-class population of smallmouth. And you're talking about the spotted bass get aggressive, but those smallmouth are just as, if not even more aggressive. And the thing is, they actually have some size to them. I've personally caught 3-4 pound smallmouth
Wow.
in that river, multiple of them. And I mean, it can be February, you're
Yeah.
catching them on top water.
Oh,
It's just, they're that aggressive. And the tough part about that stretch of the river is access. You really can't really access it in too many spots. And actually, the one access point I would always use to go down to that section of the Savannah River is now inaccessible after Helene. They've actually closed that spot at Savannah Rapids Park to cross over the canal path into the river area. They've closed that off since it's just not safe yet to kind of get on that canal path. But
I got you.
unfortunately, I can't fish my favorite hole just yet, but it'll get better. And I know that means less people are fishing it too. So
And
it'll be that much better once we get to it.
exactly. The fish are just waiting on you, Riley.
Man, can't wait. Can't wait.
There you go. Oh gosh, man, that's so awesome. What was I about to say about the smallmouth? I know the only smallmouth I ever caught was when I went to fish Lake Mead in Las Vegas. My buddy lived out there at the
Yeah,
time, and oh my gosh, that was so awesome fishing that lake. You could be in 50 foot of water and sitting there and just doing like this right here, and you could see the fish down there about to bite it. That's how clear the water was. It was so amazing.
right. Yeah.
So, but
I,
I was able to catch a couple smallmouth out there and experience. They really do fight a lot harder. It seems like than
Pound for
largemouth.
pound.
I think.
Yeah. Pound for pound, 100%. And I'm not sure exactly how they got in the river. I've heard that's always been kind of a controversial topic because they're not necessarily native to the river.
Glad you brought that
It
up.
was, yeah,
Yeah,
it was actually, from what I've heard from just kind of local dock talk, was that they were actually released into the Savannah River, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago, or
mhm.
at least a few of them were, and then they really just thrived because that's kind of their environment, just kind of rocky
Rocky
shoals, cool
Shoal.
water.
Yeah,
And that's the great thing also about the Savannah River is that it can be in the middle of July, 110 degrees outside. That water temperature is still going to be around 70 degrees. It
yep,
just stays cool all summer long and makes the fishing that much better all summer long too. And a lot of places just get super hot. The fish get very lethargic. You have to fish either really late in the day or really early in the morning or nighttime even. It's not like that on the river. You can really catch them all year long at any time during the day. But
yeah.
you
I
mentioned
agree.
Lake Mead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
No, you're fine.
Lake Mead, I actually follow a YouTube channel of a dad and a son that I forget the name of their channel, but they fish all around Lake Mead, and they've been doing a lot of updates on how Mead was like super low for I think last year, the year before that, to where uh, the YouTube channel basically got viral because they were showing up to all these old boat crash sites that would now become present once the lake level got super low. But
Yeah.
Lake Mead, that's on my bucket list. I've heard that's a good spot to
Oh
fish.
gosh, it was so amazing, man. Yeah, you definitely got to get out there. I know, and you're right about the water level out there. The last I seen, it was like really far down, like
Yeah,
coves that are just dry now. It's yeah, it's not
yeah.
good.
It got really bad there for a little bit. I think it has improved over the last year, but it was getting to pretty dire circumstances to the point to where most of the boat ramps they were using, you couldn't even use them anymore.
Yeah.
Like hundreds of feet below normal, like
Yes. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty bad out that way. Hopefully they can. I don't know. Get the water level back up some kind of way. I don't know.
I know,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome, man. Um, being the in your position, being a weatherman, does it like help you as far as like when you go fishing or like it's going to be a certain weather condition today. Oh man, I should really go fishing today, or I should avoid going fishing today. Does that help you out? Like knowing some
Yeah,
insight?
most definitely. I think so for sure. And I mean, it really could be anybody that follows the
Mhm.
weather. You kind of know what to look for. I think that one of the biggest things that helped me as an angler once I moved here is that I would actually keep a journal on kind of like what the conditions were, what was the weather like, what was the pressure doing, what was the wind, what was the temperature, what was the moon
Yeah,
like. I'm big on definitely like the solar lunar forecast, like your major minor periods. When I started that journaling process after each fishing trip, you would really kind of see that kind of your peak activity would kind of line up in those minor and major fish windows. But I also noticed that if you can get a day in the wintertime, whenever you have an incoming cold front where barometric pressure is dropping, you're usually much warmer ahead of those cold fronts too. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can get a warming trend, dropping pressure, a little bit of wind, some cloud cover, that is ideal fishing right there for me. And I think the fish can pick up on those barometric pressure changes, and that's what they're sensing. And basically sensing that barometric pressure change is an indication that, hey, I got a changing weather pattern heading my way.
Mm-hmm.
If barometric pressure is dropping, that means a cold front's going to be moving in, and you're most likely going to see a pretty significant temperature change behind that front. So usually the theory is that animals, fish, they're going to feed more heavily ahead of those cold fronts when barometric pressure is dropping, in anticipation of their environment just going through some pretty major changes coming up within the next 24 hours. And I think that does hold pretty true. I think anytime, if you can go fishing when it's a warm day in wintertime, you got a little bit of wind, fronts moving in,
Mm-hmm.
usually you can have a pretty successful day. Now, it's kind of the opposite on the backside of those fronts. That first bluebird day after a front, that can be tough. That's when you have rising pressure, high
Yeah.
pressure over the area, bluebird skies. The fish can sometimes get a little bit more lockjaw, or you just got to change the way you fish for them a good bit. So watching those weather changes, I think definitely plays a big role in success rates or not.
Yeah, that was very well said. I mean, that's something. I mean, I think a lot of the people that's going to watch this can take down some notes on that for sure. Yeah.
It is something that you can, you don't necessarily have to be a meteorologist to have access to this
Yeah.
information. So it's like, you can just go to weather.gov, type in Augusta, and
Mm-hmm.
just look at their 3-day observations. There's a tab you can click on that. And on the 3-day observations, it'll give you basically hourly observations of temperature, wind, humidity, pressure,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And you can kind of see what the trend's been over the last couple of days. But if you're watching the weather forecast and they're saying temperatures are going to be near records, and then we got a front pushing through Sunday night, then it's like, all right, well, we're ahead of a front. We're really warm. This should probably be a pretty good day to fish.
Yeah, I know that it was kind of warm today and stuff. So I was like, I gotta take my little girl fishing. So it was nice today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me check a couple comments right quick before I ask you another question.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if anybody. Somebody said exact same with scent conditions for hounds. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about dog hunting. Yep.
Definitely.
Um. So, real quick before I ask you the next question, I just want to let everybody know that's watching. Here in a few minutes, if y'all want to ask a question or ask Riley a question, once we get to that point, just be ready and I'll get to you. Just click the join and I'll add you. So let's see what's next. Oh yeah, your spotted bass. I know I was wanting to touch on that. For those who don't know, this man here's got had the lake record spotted bass. Tell us about that.
Man, that was a really cool time. So it was a couple years ago now. It was a spring striper tournament. I was lucky enough to fish with Mr. Ed Lepley, who was a former guide on the lake. He was nice enough. He invited me on to fish with him and his buddy Kenny in the tournament. And we were fishing live herring, just down lines, and went down, reeled it in, giant spotted bass. And to me, being a bass fisherman, I see that and I'm like, oh man, that's a giant spotted
Yeah.
bass. The striper guys are like, that's not what we're fishing for. Get that off the hook, throw it off, whatever.
Yeah,
And
they talk junk about largemouth. I think the striper guys do.
yep. And so I pulled in this spotted bass, and Captain Ed was like, all right, you can throw that back. And I'm like, hold on a second. I was always told if I caught a big spotted bass at Clark's Hill, check the weight because the record is very beatable. The
Mm-hmm.
person that told me that was Mr. Kevin Fox.
Mm-hmm.
He's a well-known local kayak fishing guy. He used to run Southern Moon Outfitters, really good guy. And he was the one that always told me, if you catch a big spotted bass at Clark's Hill, make sure you weigh it because I think the previous record to mine was like 4 pounds, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So we bring in this fish, and Captain Ed had a scale on his boat. We put it on that scale, and it was like 4.8, 4.9. So I looked up on my phone. Luckily, I had internet service to look up on my phone to see the lake records. I saw that the lake record was like 4.3. We were weighing at 4.8. I was like, all right, we got to keep this fish. And so we put it in the live well with all the herring. I mean, Captain had a giant live bait tub. So, I mean, the
Yeah.
thing stayed live. It was just cruising healthy the entire day while we fished. The funniest part of the story was that, it's not DNR that handles the lake records. They deal with state records. It's actually Georgia Outdoor News that handles the lake records. So I was looking on their website and kind of like what you needed to do to make sure this was a verified catch. They said it needed to be weighed on a USDA certified scale. So with the Department of Agriculture. Um, there wasn't a whole lot of places around where we were that had a certified scale, except at the Food Line in McCormick, in their produce section. And it wasn't even the produce section. It was way in the back, kind of where they do their meat, butchery type stuff like that. So we were able to convince the manager at the time at Food Line to let us use their USDA fish scale. And keep in mind, this thing has been in the live well, still in the live well in the back of the boat, like 100% alive. We put this live fish on this very clean USDA certified scale, instantly starts flopping everywhere. We eventually get it to stay still. We get a weight, take a picture of it. And then I actually called one of the local DNR guys and was talking with him, like, do y'all have a certified scale I could bring it to? Because I was thinking, like, I don't know if this is going to work. We just used a Food Line scale, and I just took a picture of it. But ended up linking up with DNR, went out to the McDuffie PFA the day after. They took all the official measurements. We sent it into GON, and then sure enough, it was the largest spotted bass officially recorded in Clarks Hill. Because that was the thing. There definitely been bigger spotted bass caught at Clarks Hill, even bigger than mine. But the thing is, a lot of those local bass tournaments didn't have certified scales. So whenever they would weigh those fish, wouldn't necessarily be something that they could send into GON. But the good news is that, and this is actually the funny part of the story, DJ Haddon, who runs Haddon Outdoors, his son Tanner is actually a phenomenal bass fisherman, fishes on the collegiate level. He ended up catching a bigger spotted bass last year, I believe. It got up to over 5 pounds, I believe. So really good spot.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny how it worked out that way to where Tanner was the one to catch it. I talked to DJ and did some publicity showcasing that they now had certified scales and everything like that. And then sure enough, Tanner was the one to bring in the next biggest spot, his son.
Well,
so
how about that?
It was fun that Tanner was able to kind of take over that top spot.
That's awesome, man. That's a cool story. I bet those people were like, you want to do what at Food Line?
I know it. Oh, we looked like crazy people. We had been fishing there all day, and we're just carrying in this, like the bag you carry up with your 5 fish to weigh in. We sack like that, and then yeah, it was definitely a story we'll tell for a little while.
There you go. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's really cool. Let's see here. I know I wanted to talk about also that sturgeon that one time we talked about this previously that was found in Spirit Creek out in South Augusta.
Yeah,
that
was crazy.
That was pretty cool. I mean, we ain't got to talk about it long, but I just wanted to touch base on that again. That was pretty neat to see that sturgeon all the way up that creek like that.
It was. It was very cool. I think the coolest part about the story is that UGA DNR teamed up. They saved the fish and were able to release it back into the Savannah River. And it was quite the ordeal to get that fish corralled and actually safely into a tank that they could transport back out to the river. Because where this thing ended up was all the way up Spirit Creek, close to where Cross Creek High School is. So it was right at that. Help me out if you know the name of that road, Brent. That goes over
Old Waynesboro Road, ain't it?
Waynesboro, yeah. So it was right off Old Waynesboro Road. It's basically where it was stuck, right where Spirit Creek goes underneath that. And I actually got tipped off from it from a guy that works for DNR. He was saying, "Hey, crazy story. The sturgeon is stuck up Spirit Creek." Excuse me. But he said UGA was also going to be involved because they have a whole sturgeon team, sturgeon research team. So they sent a team up from Athens, and it was probably 4 or 5 of them in waders and a big seining net, just trying to corral this fish for probably like 2 hours.
Wow.
And then they finally got it, and then took it up to the Savannah River, released it safely, and yeah, just a prehistoric fish. I know talking with you, you said you've seen him jump a few times just fishing on the river.
Like 5 foot out the water, man. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then back down. And I mean, I've seen it many a times. And then one particular time, I used to have these bright lights all the way down the side of my boat, and I was fishing one night, and I was anchored out on a flat on a sandbar around a curve,
Right.
and all of a sudden, here comes one. It was so beautiful, man. It was just, I'm talking about probably 4 or 5 foot. It was a big one. Now it's probably about the size of that one, if not a little bit bigger. Just cruise right on by my anchor line. I was like,
It's
God,
a dinosaur.
yeah.
And I'd never really seen them like alive, at least in the Savannah River. Whenever we see them down in Savannah, I've seen them dead, washed up in like the breakers or the rocks or jetties or something like that. But it's cool to know that they are in the river. They're alive. There's big ones in there.
Yes.
I don't really hear too many people about targeting the sturgeon at all. I don't even
I've
know.
heard they're really hard to catch from what I've Googled.
Yeah.
They're really hard to catch. So, and I don't even remember what I read that you used, but yeah, I've just heard they're really hard to catch. So,
yeah.
What
And
kind
super protected too. So I definitely
Oh
want to
yeah,
keep
for
it.
sure. Yeah. See, I didn't even know that. So, see, I just learned something. What kind of sturgeon are those, by the way? Are they what are they called?
That's a good question.
If you don't know, it's fine. I was just
Yeah.
curious. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Long nose
Long
sturgeon,
nose.
maybe.
I thought that's what it was. Yeah.
Kind of was coming to my head, but you could definitely have double check that.
Yeah, I think they're long nosed. Yeah, that's really cool. Uh, couple more questions real quick, and then we'll get. I don't want to keep you too long, and I know you're trying to get home.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm here till 11 tonight. I'm doing the night shift, so
Gotcha.
burning the midnight oil tonight.
I got you, brother. We'll stick to fishing for a couple more questions. If you could probably fish anywhere in the world, where would you like to fish at?
Ooh. I've actually been really lucky to fish some pretty incredible places. The spot that instantly comes to mind is Tropic Star in Panama. I got to go there a couple years ago in August, and I went down with my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, and it is in the middle of the Darien Gap in the Panamanian jungle. There is no one around you, and it's mountainous rainforest that transitions to just the Pacific Ocean, and just the most incredible scenery you could ever imagine. Giant rooster fish right by the dock that you can hand feed, and just world-class marlin, dolphin, tuna fishing. Caught my first Pacific sailfish there, and when we went, it was actually during whale season, so you're running out in the morning time, and you're actually looking out for breaching whales coming up next to the boat. That's definitely the coolest place I've ever fished before in my life, was down in Panama at Tropic Star. Caught some phenomenal fish down there, and definitely want to go back, but it is one of those places that's just so remote. It's definitely like kind of a once in a lifetime trip. Don't know if I'm ever going to make it back, but definitely want to. That's definitely the coolest spot I've ever fished. Spot that I would want to go to that I haven't gone to yet. I think Lake Okeechobee for bass fishing.
I knew you were going to say that. I read your mind.
I want to go hang out with Scott Martin and fish Lake O.
Yeah. I love watching
him and his dad rolling. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, Lake Okeechobee is amazing. I would love that too. I'll tell you this though, man. I don't know if you ever watched the videos, but peacock, I don't know where they're at, but the peacock bass.
Yeah.
They're jerking the top water and then just coming up and slamming it. Oh my gosh. I would love to try that.
And I know even in Florida, a lot of their little canals or even neighborhood
I heard that.
golf courses, they can have peacock bass too. And down the Everglades, that's definitely on my bucket. That's a bucket list fish for me because, like you said, super aggressive, and they can get pretty decent size too. I think they get maybe 10, 15.
10,
for
15 pounds. Yeah.
Big ones. So that would be cool. Have you ever seen the YouTube videos of where they go like straight in the Amazon jungle and the Arapaima.
Oh,
That's a crazy looking
oh
fish.
gosh, them big old like they're like orangey looking. Like yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen them.
It's
They're
like a
huge.
tarpon
Yeah,
and an eel mixed
yeah.
together. It's the weirdest looking thing, but yeah, those tropical fish can definitely get fun.
I've seen a couple episodes of River Monsters when Jeremy Wade
Yeah,
going down there and doing that. That was pretty insane.
yeah. And those trips, I mean, where we were at in Panama, it was very remote, but I mean, it was like you were staying in a hotel just in the middle of the jungle, you know. But
Yeah,
for those Amazon trips where you're like deep in the Amazon, that is roughing it, and
yeah,
that takes some dedication to go down there.
yeah. I bet. I bet that's crazy. The scenery though, I bet something just beautiful.
Oh yeah, 100%. Just stuff that's untouched, you know.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask you, going back to weather real quick, was the recent hurricane, was that the worst storm you've ever covered as a weatherman? That Hurricane Helene?
Oh, 1,000%. That was a generational storm, man. A wind event unprecedented for our area. To think that we had 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts across the Savannah River corridor. I mean, that's just something I thought could never
Mhm.
happen here in Augusta the way it did. Definitely the worst storm I've ever covered. I'll never forget before, during, after that one. I mean, that was just absolute devastation. And it was really hard, kind of months or so after that, just seeing the lasting impact. I had never covered a storm that had so many fatalities like that. I think that was the hardest part, was that you feel like you could have, should have done more, and you really feel the weight of those 100% after a big storm like that. Um, but man, I mean, place will never look the same. The landscape changed, and it didn't just impact Augusta. You know, it impacted pretty much everywhere in our viewing area. And I mean,
Mhm.
specifically up at Clarks Hill Lake, we still have the majority of our parks completely closed,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's still it's unsafe to go out there in a lot of these places still. Talking with Sorba, the people that do the mountain biking trails around our area, they've been in charge of really helping clear a lot of those trails, specifically around the Fork area trail system. And I mean, going out there and just seeing the type of wind damage there is, I mean, it's insane. And it really, really just opens your eye to the power of Mother Nature 100%. That these storms happen, and they can definitely leave a very big lasting impact. But the thing with Helene was that it was just so it was
Massive.
so unusual and fast. And that
Hmm.
was the biggest thing, is that this thing made landfall on the Gulf Coast of Florida and stayed a hurricane all the way up to I-20. I mean, it's just something I had never seen before. I didn't think was really possible, and definitely something we'll always remember for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I remember messaging you day or so after it hit, and I was like, Raleigh, I got like 8 videos. I stayed up
Hmm.
all night long watching. I think you watching you, and man, I was in the front door like with my phone out, and it just in all my videos you can just hear the wind just sounding like I don't know a train coming through the woods or something. Man, it was
Yeah.
wild,
And for
and you would just
hours.
yes, and like you would hear like every few minutes it would get to be a really bad gust, and as the gust was coming, working its way because I live kind of beside some woods, you would hear trees snapping as that one big gust would come through every few minutes. It was wild. It was really scary.
It was. And the thing was, is that the day prior to Helene, we had significant flooding and even tornadoes.
Yeah.
So Thursday, Helene hit Friday morning, the
Hmm.
27th. On Thursday, I got to work at 8 a.m. Thursday. We had early tornado warnings. We would have more later to the afternoon. We had flash flood warnings all day long. And then I stayed at work until Friday at like 10 a.m. after Helene had passed. So it was like 20 something hours straight. And I mean, I'll never forget going outside kind of when the storm was hitting, like in between our weather hits, like just going outside and looking over Riverwatch Parkway from our back balcony, and you could see the transformers blowing just on the hill and on the horizon, just transformer going boom, boom, boom. And man, just
Yeah.
nightmare. I
Yeah.
mean, and then I feel like it took forever for the sun to come out that morning. It stayed super dark for so long, but as soon as enough light got out and you could see what happened, I remember I ran outside. Um, there's power lines all over Riverwatch Parkway. One was still hanging, and a big F-250 was coming down Riverwatch Parkway, and his hood caught the power line, flipped it up, and like he slammed on brakes and got out. And that was just the first thing I saw after the light had come out, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is chaos. Like this is absolutely horrible. Like there's power lines down all over the cars in our parking lot. Um, and I mean, that was the thing. You couldn't drive anywhere.
No.
My wife had been texting me like, we're okay, we're okay. Once the storm left, I wanted to get home to make sure they were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I couldn't get home. I mean, going Riverwatch Parkway, down trees everywhere, both directions. Somehow made it toward North Augusta, crossed over 13th Street Bridge, instantly stopped with trees all over Georgia Ave, Buena Vista, all those little cutoffs. Looped back around, went all the way up Fury's Ferry. I was trying to get to North Augusta around exit 5, and so went Fury's Ferry, hoping to get to Woodlawn, cut over Woodlawn back down. That was completely covered in trees. Eventually got to the backside of 520 and just took that all the way around. And I mean, the whole way down 520 that morning, there's trees down in 520 and power lines down everywhere. People are out just not knowing what to do. I mean,
Yeah.
just pure chaos, man, is something I hope I never experience again.
You and me both. It was like a war zone, and it stayed like that for several days for some, a couple of weeks for others. I mean, just depending on how bad your situation was. Yeah, it was horrible for a little while there, man.
Yeah. I mean, most of Augusta didn't have power or water for at least a week. We didn't
Yeah.
have internet for pretty much 2 to 3 weeks in 75% of the area. And I mean, I think the craziest thing is you still drive around now and there's still debris everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
I mean, you see the signs of it everywhere too in the tree line, and it's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to spring, things getting back green, filling in all those gaps, and hopefully making it look a little bit
For
better.
sure. The only sad part is, what it'll probably take, I don't know, just guessing, what, 20, 30 years for trees to fill in all those spots again, probably.
Yeah, at least, I mean, you think of all the mature trees that we lost.
I
I think
know.
that's the big, I mean, we're talking 50 to 150-year-old trees
Yeah.
that came down that were just the biggest sails, that were able to just catch that wind most efficiently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to take a long time. I was talking with Campbell Vaughn, who is the UGA Extension guy for Richmond County, and he was estimating at least about 10% of our trees were cleared out in just Richmond County.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, that's just incredible to think that 10% of your trees instantly gone. Like that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of good quality air, if you really think
Yeah,
about it. Yeah, for sure.
100%, especially with our air quality around Augusta.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the toughest part too. Moving forward, it's going to be tough to really convince people to plant trees again.
Mhm.
And I think that could definitely be a long-lasting impact of just less trees continuing for decades now.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Let me check the comments real quick, and then I'll see if anybody wants to come on.
Cool.
Make sure
Cool.
make sure he is coming to the outdoor expo, somebody said.
Yes, and I know we have been talking about that a bunch. I did send out that info to our morning mix and sales team. I think they're going to. I think they did say they were going to reach out and
Okay.
hopefully get someone on for the morning mix to help advertise that,
Yeah,
because that sounds really cool.
yeah. It's the first one, man. So I think it's going to be a big deal, and especially if it's a huge success. And I've been trying my best, and I know a lot of people's been trying to advertise it. And if it is big thing and a good turnout, they're going to have it every year. And I think they're even going to turn it from a 1 day to at least a 2 day. Don't hold me to that any more than that, but I think at least a 2 day, like next year.
Good. And I mean, the demands here, I mean, this is definitely a big outdoor community, whether it be hunting, fishing, golfing, birding, hiking, mountain biking. Just people love to get outside for sure. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I do too. I am too, man. Let's see here. Any more comments? Emily Hill. That's your
That's
that's
my
your better
wife.
half. That's your better half right there, ain't it?
Yep. She's tuning in.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's past the baby's bedtime, so she's just chilling.
That's right. There you go. So let me see if anybody want to come on, and we'll go ahead and see if anybody wants to come on with us here. And I'll just give it a couple minutes. And if for whatever reason, if nobody comes on, we'll wrap it up here in a couple of minutes. Let's see here.
Cool.
I'm just seeing if anybody wants to come on. Ask the weatherman a question.
Our bonita fish big.
You see that?
That's
Yeah.
that's my brother-in-law. He's being
Oh,
funny.
okay.
One thing I will say, Brent, I just got this press release from DNR yesterday. I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Michael Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
He is a local kayak fishing guy. He actually won the Georgia DNR Bass Slam for
That's that.
2024.
I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I met him a couple times. I fished against him in a few tournaments, but I most recently met him at the Stevens Creek boat ramp one day and just kind of talking with him. And I mean, super nice guy, definitely a veteran angler, 100%, knows this area very well. But want to give him a quick highlight. He won that award, got that press release yesterday, so definitely well deserved for him.
That's awesome. Hey, if you got any more shout outs, go ahead. Feel free.
Let's see. Give a shout out to Mr. Kevin Fox. He was definitely the one that got me big into kayak fishing here around the local area, just sharing local tips. And he was who I bought my first big fishing kayak from. So definitely a shout out to Kevin. Josh Deal, he's one of our local kayak guys. He's fishing on the Bassmaster series right now. He's grinded out. He's been going to a couple events this year, making a bigger name for himself. So glad to see Josh doing well. Gave PJ a shout out. What he's doing with Haddon Outdoors, definitely big time for helping get these bigger tournaments in, definitely helping with the high school, college fishing series, all that. Just really appreciate all the work those guys are doing for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping to hear back from DJ. I messaged him, about what we were talking about earlier. So hopefully we hear back from him. I think he could be a big help with what we were talking about and trying to, get the community more involved and stuff like that. So I think that'll be a good thing.
Man,
I know.
and his son Tanner would be a great guest to have on too. I'd love to pick his brain a little bit. He's big on the forward-facing sonar, so he has got that dialed in.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. So yeah, that forward facing, and that's something else, man. I haven't got to experience that yet. So I mean, but I've seen videos on it. It looks pretty interesting.
It does. I don't have it personally with like anything I have on my kayak, but I was striper fishing up in Tennessee one time, and the guide we were fishing with, he was actually using the forward-facing sonar before it got super popular. He was using it to mainly find bait. So he would just kind of scan, find the school of shad that he was wanting to cast on, and then cast the cast set on top of them. So that was really the only, or the first time I really saw it put to use. But the way these bass guys use it now, and I mean, you can even watch the major tournament series, and basically they'll do a split screen of like, you'll just see their forward facing sonar graph and then like a video of what they're doing. It's like, that's how big it's become. Is that now they're sharing the screen of kind of like what these guys are seeing. I mean, it's changed the game 100%. You're no longer just kind of thrown into the dark. You're instantly seeing like, all right, there's a fish 20 feet out, 20 feet down. This is where I'm going to cast.
Now, Or is a live scope, is that different than what we're talking about? Are those two different things?
Same thing. It's just different brands. I
Oh,
think
okay.
Live Scope, I think, is the Garmin,
Okay.
and then, but yeah, it's the Lowrance Garmin. Just your
Pretty much
variety
same thing.
of different, yeah, different varieties of forward-facing sonar. It's just what they call it based on their brand. I forget which one's Live Scope, but yeah, forward-facing sonar. That's all. Just different brands of that.
And this is the question for myself, actually. Do you think that those would work good in like the river with all the current and stuff? Like if you're, I don't know, in 15, 20 foot of water with all that current and all that in the river, do you think that it would work? It would still work pretty good?
Yeah, I've talked with a couple guides down in Savannah,
Hmm.
some couple of inshore guides about it on if they use it or not, and they say it is useful. You can still see stuff, but you do have to have a decent amount of depth.
Yeah.
I would say if you're in 5 feet or less, you're probably not necessarily getting the biggest benefit out of it.
Hmm.
But once you get into some deeper water, and even with moving
Hmm.
water, I think it can still penetrate through okay.
Okay.
There may be a little bit more debris that kind of pops up in the graph just from
That's what I was
different.
curious about. Yeah.
But I think instead of it, it's you're constantly seeing what's live. We're constantly seeing current imaging, so it's
Hmm.
not like with the old depth finders where you scan and just kind of see what it just scanned over. Since you're instantly seeing what's happening, you can kind of decipher a little bit better, like, all right, that's a moving fish, or that's just kind of a piece of
Sticker.
grass floating down
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's the cool part about it, is that it's just very instant. You can see the movement, to where prior to that, it was always just a static image that you would get.
Yeah. So Victoria says, who's caught the biggest fish in your family?
That's my sister. I think it's her. I think she has caught I think she's caught a blue marlin.
Oh,
She'll definitely let us know. She'll comment and let us know. But my biggest fish personally was that Pacific sailfish, which was about 100 pounds. But I think uh, my brother-in-law, who she's married to,
hmm.
they're big offshore anglers, so they love going for the wahoo, the tuna, the marlin, sailfish, that type stuff. So I
I
think
got you.
she has me beat on the biggest fish for sure.
Oh, now look at that sweet brother right there giving her a shout out.
She's a great angler too. She can definitely fish for
That's
sure.
cool. That's cool. Does your parents still have the accent since they since y'all were over in England? Do they have that accent?
So my grandparents do.
Uh-huh.
My grandparents, they still have the British accent 100%. My mom or dad, no. They didn't pick up an accent when we lived over there. But
Okay.
my sister and I, being younger, we kind of picked up a little British accent a little bit,
Oh,
but
look.
nothing crazy. Like
Yeah.
it lasted for when we lived there. Then once we moved back to the States, it went
I
away. But
got
it's
you.
always interesting. I actually got an email from a guy a week or so ago who was wanting to know where I was from. He couldn't figure out my accent. And I was thinking about, I was like, I probably do have a really weird accent going from the South to England back to the South. Like, just gonna not sound like something you're used to, I guess.
Yeah, I got you. I was curious about that because I know I forget who posted it, if it was you or me, but I know I think it was your dad. He was saying something about, and I had wrote on there busted talking about you, and he was talking about taking you fishing all the time and this and that and the other on that comment the other. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, he was definitely the one that gave me the bug, 100%. Him and my uncles, um, and going to fish the local park pond or Miss Regina's pond, just
Yeah,
anything where I could go cast a line. But
there
he
you go.
definitely got me started in it, and he's a huge fisherman too, as well. He's actually he fishes a lot of inshore tournaments down in Savannah, does really well with those. So I try to get back and fish with him as much as I can.
I know. I see you go try all the time, or I mean, or try sometimes with him. I see you post pictures of him, holding big fish down there in the ocean. And she
Oh
says,
yeah.
Victoria said, whites and blues, baby.
Yeah. White marlin, blue marlin.
There
So I
you
guess
go.
she's caught a white and a blue.
Okay.
I don't think I mentioned that she had caught the white marlin yet. But
Okay.
yeah, they catch some big fish for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I guess I guess we can wrap it up if you want to, man. I don't think I don't see anybody that's wanting to come on,
Cool, cool.
but we can
Well,
wrap it
thanks for
on.
having me on, man. This was fun.
Oh gosh, it was awesome, man. And I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you get out there again soon and get some fish.
Yeah, hoping too. And man, this is a great time of year to fish. This is honestly when I've caught some of my biggest fish in the area. Is kind of this pre-spawn time before
Yes.
we get into March. Fish are chewing, and the big fish are chewing too.
Yep.
So hopefully get out there
I
soon.
got to get a kayak and try and join you sometime. I'm sick of watching the videos of it. I got to do it, man. It looks so much fun.
Dude, it's so worth it. You get exercise, you get to
Hmm.
fish. It's just you knock out so many birds with one
Yeah.
stone doing the kayak fishing option. It's a lot of fun. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. Well, all right, Riley. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We'll definitely be in touch. And thanks again
Okay.
for having me on.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the rest of your night, Riley.
Cool. Thank y'all.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I guess that's gonna wrap it up for this week. And everybody just tune in next week, and I'll have another episode ready to go for y'all next week. Y'all have a good weekend. I appreciate it.